Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. A little bit of a later start this morning. You might have even thought that there might be no video at all, but of course not. It's the morning rituals, man. This is the biggest part of my day. My day is not complete without doing these analyses. And with that said, let's go take a look at the CrownChain application over here, which can be found at app.crownchain.net. And what do we see first off? Well, a lot of the same, actually. Bitcoin dominance coming down about 0.25%. Still holding the overall range, though, and I will definitely be actually prioritizing looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart today. In fact, we'll look at it before even Bitcoin itself. Looking at the open interest, still holding the overall range, of which we see between about 1.95 billion and 2.1.5 billion. Quite literally smack dab right in the middle there at 2.05 billion. Does that even make sense? 2 billion and 50,000, or sorry, 50 million. Jesus, man, can't get my numbers out today. This is going to be a long one, I suppose. But with that said, still holding the overall range, and we're looking for that to correlate or move outside of the price action range of 10,000 to about 11,000 bucks, as we've been talking about for the past, I don't know, I guess past like week and a half to 2 weeks now. Fear and greed index also ticked up a couple points from yesterday to today. And looking at the data tab over here, what do we see? We see that the futures price actually is starting to get a little bit more of a deeper premium above spot price action, which is rather interesting. We see the global funding rate backing off a bit as well. Still not even a consideration though. Just kind of doing the daily perusals of these things. We don't see anything that's like glaringly obvious, suggesting that something ridiculous or out of left field is about to happen. Nope, just more or less of the same. So with that said, let's go into the actual price action charts themselves. Oh, and I should actually make an announcement here for the people who have Caretaker's RSI. We actually just pushed another update through it last night, and what it will do is it'll actually allow you to apply the same sort of divergence logic to any indicator that you ever want to try. If I wanted to put it on historical volatility percentile, which I would suspect would not make very much sense at all, but we could do that actually if we really wanted to. Anyways, I'll spare you the details of that. All you have to do is make sure that you're upgraded to the most recent one, which actually I just realized that I am not right here. So let me actually just I might need to bring this back. Oh fuck, I probably have to do this after stream just because it's gonna fuck around all my current settings, and I don't really have the patience to do that. But you'll know that you're up to date if you see a new tick right here that allows you to use an external source. And then the way that you apply that is to go over here to the RSI source and then use whatever indicator that you want. So yeah, I'll have that ready for tomorrow, but it looks like today it's going to be a massive pain in the asshole to deal with. Anyways, so like I said, we'll start off with Bitcoin dominance right now and see if there's anything of interest here. We did say we're looking for a major reversal within this range down here at about the 58% region. And by the way, there's been a lot of questions on this. Why is the Bitcoin dominance chart on TradingView a lot different than what you see on the CrownChain application? The reason why it's different is because we're including different calculations. The one here on TradingView we've kind of found is a very it includes a lot of things that probably shouldn't be included, like tether, for example. Kind of makes sense, kind of doesn't make sense. Yes, it is standardized because they are rather consistent with it, but we wanted to take that out and get a little more of a pure read. So that is why the numbers them specifically do not match up, but still the same sort of major areas should more or less play the same, as it's at the end of the day it's going to come in line with each other. And yes, we did see this big old bounce off of that proverbial long-term area, which we documented about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I still believe that we're actually looking at a major reversal being born upon this region. Now yes, short term it is looking like a rejection, probably does come back down, and that probably will mean that altcoins do get to party around a little bit here, but long term I am actually massively bullish on the Bitcoin dominance chart as long as we're above about 59.5% right here on a weekly closing basis. That also, of course, that doesn't mean that we can't actually break to the downside. And no, I do not trust like actual technical analysis on a chart like this. It's rather silly in my opinion. Like I wouldn't be looking at Stokes or something like that, for example, or if I can even bring him up. Yeah, technically they would be a little more in a bullish territory right there. Same thing with RSI as well. Do I trust it that much? Fuck no. Again, just be 100% abundantly clear. No, I do not trust that, but I do trust levels on something like this, as it does seem to work out long term. We have seen that interplay come into visual view. So yeah, short term, probably a lot of altcoins actually will benefit here versus their Satoshi value does not imply a move for or against the US dollar value, just the Satoshi value. And then I'd be looking for another low to be put in somewhere right around this 59% marker right here. Long term, this looks like it wants to probably rally from this region back up into the mid to low 60s. And I believe that we are going to be seeing seeing the monthly closure on Wednesday, by the way. Oh my God, this is the week. This is the fucking week. There's going to be the presidential debates. This is so much better than the Super Bowl. Oh my, this is going to be the best one of all time. This is, oh God, I can't fucking wait. I hate politics, but I love a good comedy show, and this is going to be the best of the best of the best. But yeah, looking at a monthly right here, and the reason why I bring that up is because I know that it's one day before the end of the month, assuming that they actually do happen, which is a whole nother conspiracy theory in and of itself, I guess. But yeah, looking at this right here, closing in a precarious place like this likely does offer up a nice monthly pivot. So yes, I do believe that Bitcoin dominance is going to start to soak up a lot of altcoins probably over the next half year to a year, and this is likely the turning point. So let's go over to Bitcoin price action. Let's go off the same chart that we were looking at yesterday, which was GDAX's chart. Just a nice fresh chart here, not because I love GDAX or anything. I obviously don't trade there. I don't give a fuck about GDAX, but it's just nice and clean. And what do we see right here? We need to go down to the very, very low term timeframes. So we did see that move up to about 10,850-ish region, as we spoke about yesterday, and a rejection quite soon after that as well. And now what happens? Well, Bitcoin popping back up to test around this region once again so soon is actually indicative of strength. So while yesterday I did say that it was probably more likely we don't see a break outside of this range, we do come back down to play out this prior range between about 10,550 and basically where we are right now at about 10.8. With Bitcoin starting to really be constructed within this region, it does look like it's going to give a legitimate attempt to actually break it. But the same sort of logic that we had yesterday applies today as well, or at least in the way that I was kind of looking at it. Let me just make sure that I'm recording. I am recording. Okay, great. And the microphone seems to be working as well. Soundboard check. No, just kidding. But yes, the same sort of logic applies from yesterday. As long as you're below the 200 simple, do I look at this as a breakout to be played? Well, I typically don't play breakouts to begin with, but more importantly, would I be more willing to hodl longs? Maybe it's a better question. Yes, absolutely. And the same sort of things implied from yesterday as well. While it would technically have a measure move on this ascending triangle somewhere back up, where did we exactly say it was? I'm just going to do a bad one right now and just trust in the fucking TA gods. Yeah, somewhere back around about a little bit below $11,000. Depending upon how aggressive you want to be with it. I'd basically say about $11,000. I don't think that things would stop there, to be quite frank with you, sir. If Frank Angels is listening right now, well, what I mean to say is I wouldn't be quite, what's another word? I don't know. Doesn't matter. But more importantly, that would start to put Bitcoin into a posturing where it actually will have a chance to make a higher high on the daily. So if Bitcoin did get back to $11,000, basically what I'm saying is, looking at the space between that area and where we are right now, or sorry, not where we're at right now, but above that 10,850-ish pivot right here, that blue box territory, I don't really see any real reason to stop at $11,000. I think that we'd see maybe a short-term pullback there based upon a lot of profit taking from the measure move, and then have another splurt up to meet somewhere around where the highs were put in of last week, somewhere around 11,100 to 11,200-ish region, and any sort of a higher high being closed above exactly 11.1 actually would be not only a higher high, but it would be confirmed reversal. We'd have a higher low right here in comparison to what we did in early September, and we'd have our first higher high since actually way the fuck back in early August. So that would be quite the thing. But of course, that's still well and far away right now. And as you can see in the very short-term time frames, Bitcoin selling off the 200 simple once again. We're going back down to zero, baby. No, just kidding. But in a more serious tone right now, I don't really have anything else to kind of add that I didn't already say on yesterday's video, basically within this range that we're currently in right now. Now we could, make the bottom side of liquid zone as well. It's not like anything too scientific here, just this area right here going from wick to wick and including that nice little breakout. And that's what I'd essentially be looking at right there. Anything between this zone right here is more or less constructive for the boo laws, but below especially 10, let's actually move this up a little bit. I do think that it'd be, I think that it would be warranted to be a little bit more aggressive on this one. Any sort of a 2-hour or 4-hour total closure below 10.6, not 10.550 anymore. And yes, I would be looking for this one to come all the way back down to $10,000 base, and then we can play in the same sort of muddy territory that we were operating in early September. But for right now, when it's a lot closer to breaking the short-term resistance to the upside, I respect that. But it's kind of similar in a way to last week as well, that when you are in a precarious place like this, coming into Sunday's closure, a lot of the time that's going to be ripe for some fuckery. So I still do not play basically until CME's open back up for trading at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. So we got a lot of time until that opens back up. So for me, this I'm going to be asleep during that time anyway. So I have like a 9 p.m. bedtime, by the way, in case you happen to give a fuck. But looking at this right here, just kind of caught between a rock and a hard place and not really interested in making a major decision right now. What we could do, though, is we could look at momentum oscillators and see what they have to say, see if they show a way forwards. And looking at 4-hour Stokes, they are coming down back below the critical zone. Typically, that is sort of my condition to potentially play them. But let's see what Pig has to say about that with his reverse Stoke over here. And looking at that, yes, it actually will remain to the downside as long as we are closing below about 10,772, which this next closure comes in about 1 hour and 40 minutes and 31 seconds. So a a while to go right here, and that wouldn't necessarily be a death sentence even if it does close below right now. I mean, again, this is this is weekend kind of floaty price action going mostly east more than anything else. But hey, my conditions for yesterday still essentially stand. If we do get a 2-hour or 4-hour delta closure, basically above wherever the 4-hour 200 simple is, which is essentially aligned with actually the bottom side of this blue box territory now at around 10,820, then yes, I would be looking for that next move back up here somewhere around 11,000 bucks. I would be looking for maybe a very, 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 very short-term pullback from 11,000, and then maybe even come back down and test the 200 simple once again. But overall, I'd be looking for a move back up towards towards a prior high that we put in last weekend, actually at about 11,150, and that's where the next sort of daily thing can come into view once again. For right now, looks like Bitcoin is having a little bit of a stutter right here. Somewhat like my stupid fucking voice sometimes, my raspy lesbian voice getting in the way of my analyses. But for what it's worth right now, we do see the lower term time frame is actually building upon this. We see that 3-hour is actually underneath the 4-hour. 10,762 is where that one comes in, and as you can see right here, actually 3-hour Stokes are already kind of popping back up. We do have this trend line to be aware of that Bitcoin's kind of been playing off of for the last, how long has this been going? Yeah, 2 weeks now, since September 15th. So I would be looking for potentially another short-term top to be put in this region right here, but that would actually imply some short-term upside as well. So I'm really hesitant to really be calling anything right now. In fact, looking at Caretaker's RSI, he is showing that there is potential regular bearish divergence in this region present for right now. The dotted lines mean that it's potential. It's not been confirmed just yet, and that would I agree with that? Yeah, I would agree with that on a more conservative estimate. If we do close below the last 3-hour low, which was about 10,750-ish region, then yes, that will be confirmed, and I would be looking for a short-term move back down to the right bold price of 10,690. It's like craziness right now. This is why I don't necessarily care to play these things at this current moment in time. There's just not enough edge on these things. Again, above 10,820, I'm interested. Below 10,600, I'm interested. In between there, go fuck yourself. It's sandpaper time, man. It's goddamn sandpaper time. Anyways, looking at the buy hourly right here, and what do we see? Yes, it is still bidding upon it as well. So we do see that buy hourly Stokes are going to cross the upside as long as we are above 10,730. And looking at this right here, yes, it does have some space. Actually, would be holding into the bullish control zone as well. But things are kind of fraught with peril. Like I said, I'm very hesitant about this right here. We also do have potential bearish divergence in progress as well, denoted by the dotted lines, and that'll be confirmed with any sort of a closure on this 2-hour dildo in 1 hour and 37 minutes below 10,750 basically. So you can kind of look at that as a short-term pivot. I would imagine that if we do close below that, we probably will see another test back down towards 10.6 or something. But this is this is such a tight range right here in a $200 in a $200 spread, basically between about 10.6 and a little bit above 10.8. I'd really be looking for the breakage of this. The reason why I say that is due to one thing and one alone, and that would be historical volatility percentile right here on the 4-hour. Extremely low right now. In fact, I think that we even printed a 0. Yeah, we did print a 0 read last night, it looks like, or I guess sometime around, yeah, this was actually 3 a.m. my time, so maybe later in the night for those of you in the Western Hemisphere. So that does suggest that we probably will see a move actually outside of this range. On a 4-hour historical volatility percentile read getting that low, you can usually expect that that's going to lead towards a break of, at the very least, a short-term time frame range, and probably even the medium term. So in this case right here, short-term time frame range to the upside, again, 10.820. To the downside is 10.6, and the medium-term range would be more or less all the way back up to about 11.1 or 11.150, and the medium term to the downside is also also correlated with the long term as well, and that'd be basically be your $10,000 lows that Bitcoin's been putting in ever since September as well. In fact, we should probably mark that off. Let's go over here to a daily. I think on the daily it's more like 10,100ish region if I'm going off closures, which I do think is relevant. And then the 200 exponential average probably does get the liquid zone to the downside. You can see all these wicks accumulated within that region between about 9,900 and 10,000 low. So that is what's at stake right now. And looking and as I said, looking at historical volatility percentile on pretty much all the lower term timeframes, 4 hour and below, it does suggest that we're actually going to see a move probably today, probably around the time that CMEs open up, like I said, and then I'd be expecting at the very least a test of the short-term range. That's not saying anything for right now. It's extremely likely going to be a break of the short-term range, actually. So right now is actually the time to be paying attention as this does start to line up for a potential move going on right here. If you're looking at formations, you are probably looking at this as an ascending triangle or something resembling an ascending triangle. I kind of hold my reservations on that. I don't really care for pattern traders to begin with, but triangles do tend to work. But still, the same resolution point is implied. So at the end of the day, things are kind of are coming in together with each other, which is good confluence. And that would still suggest a closure above 10.820, we'll call it, or wherever the 200 simple is on the 4 hour, which currently, it's about 10.820 actually, right on the dot. Here's what the hourly says as well. We should see a similar read here too. Yeah, we do see the hourly historical volatility percentile extremely low as well. The hourly is a little bit more inherently bearish here. As it from a momentum oscillator perspective, we're going to see hourly Stokes turn to the downside as long as we're below 10.785, and hourly RSI is going to be losing the exponential as well. Already confirmed a local high right here, and that likely does spill on over into the 2, 3, and 4 hour, which, as we saw before, has potential bearish divergence forming. So if I had to call this right now, I think that this one's going to come back down to the low side of the range, or somewhere around 10.6. We'll call it first before anything else. Call me crazy, but I actually do think that. Now, if this was during a weekday, if this price action was during a weekday, during regular trading hours, I would be bullish as fuck on it. Okay, bullish as fuck is a wrong term for like a short-term move, but I'd be bullish on it. I'd be biased to the upside here. But here's the thing. First and foremost, needs to, no, I'll skip that point for now. I think that is, I don't think it's appropriate to say. What I do want to go back to is a 4 hour right here. Now, keep in mind that we've been following this regression for a long time now, ever since early September. And this is essentially speaking towards, hey, what? Fuck off. I don't want an alert there anyways. Why does it do that? It's so strange. This trend line right here is going to speak towards the greater consolidation phase or the greater contraction phase, which, if you remember, was coming in all the way back from this area right here, early September. So basically that's correlated with the $10,000 region to the low side and the $11,100 region to the upside, also correlated going back on over here. Whoops, wrong one. Let's go back to this one. There we go. Hey, get on. Oh, sorry, it's this one right here. That probably also correlates with the open interest breaking above or below the range that we spoke about earlier, between 1.9.5 billion and 2.1.5 billion. And historical volatility percentile seems to suggest that we're very likely to test one side of this range probably within these next day or two, if I had to guess, as this is extremely low and usually doesn't like to stay extremely low for too long. So looking at this right here, while it does not necessarily imply a breakage of the long-term range, again, 10,000 to the low side or 10.1 to the upside, it does imply that we probably do test it sometime this week. So I do think that we are going to see a nice, about like $500 or $700 move from this price point, which is very much tradable, and I'd be using these as essentially triggers for that, for a bias on direction mediated by momentum oscillators at the same time. So everything kind of coming in confluence with each other right now, and that is typically, like I said, good. What else do we want to look at while we're here on the very, 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 very low term time frames? Oh, no. Before that, actually go back to the 4 hour. So with this, actually putting a nice regression right here, it would suggest about second week of October, we do resolve this. So in about 2 weeks, we become, it would suggest, statistically speaking, that it's a lot more likely to resolve this. So still, as far as a $10,000 low or the $11,100 high getting broken, still got some time to wait on that. So the picture that I'm painting is that if Bitcoin does test one of these sides today, I wouldn't be looking for it to break today. I'd be looking for it to probably bounce or pull back. So bounce, somewhere around like 10.1 or pull back from about 11.1. I don't think that we're doing anything differently from that perspective, like today, this moment. But into the first or second week of October, yes, the probability of that actually breaking is gonna increase. I would imagine a lot more. But for right now, I'd just be looking for test test into that region and probably just play out the overall crab market. And this is going to be another one of those days where might just have to do the most honest YouTube title of all time: Bitcoin sideways in a range, boring AF. Have a nice fucking Sunday. Pray to your Bula, Bera, and all sorts of pig Jesuses. Realistically, though, who's the real Jesus you should be trading? You should be praying towards? Trader Jesus. Trader Jesus loves you. He doesn't give a fuck about direction. Trader Jesus gives no fucks about direction. He only gives fucks about opportunities, which is who this channel is really for. As I mean, Bitcoin's cool. I think that it has its place in this world, very, very likely. But would I consider myself a Bitcoin like fiend, or what do they even call themselves nowadays? A Bitcoin person? I'm a coin person. Just like that. No, I mean I would not. First and foremost, trader. Second, not even a Bitcoin believer, but just a lover of charts, I guess. And then maybe like a little bit distant down towards number 5. I'd say, yeah, Bitcoin's pretty fucking cool. Probably has its place in this world. Probably does fit into the global financial system at some point. Maybe not even in our lifetimes. This can take a long time, obviously. But hey. Cool technology and likely anything that gives people more sovereign control of their financial life, I think is generally a good thing. Anyways, with that said, we definitely don't want to also not talk about all of the glaring issues that can come alongside something like this as well. Okay, so that's for another channel. Anyways, let's go back, check out the medium-term timeframes right here. 12-hour is looking like what? Looking like we're getting rejected once again from the top side short-term liquid zone. What do we see on 12-hour Stokes? They are nice and erect right here. And what will be needed to actually turn them back down? What would actually have to be done here? Very, 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 very interesting. Look at where this comes in around. Thank you, pig, sir. Thank you, goddamn pig. Sorry, not like goddamn pig. He's great, actually. You can check out his work below in the description section. Of which I'll be showing a couple more of his indicators today. But yeah, looking at this right here, it does make quite a bit of sense, as we do see the 12-hour Stokes would turn back onto the downside, rejecting around the bullish control zone here as well, while also breaking below the short-term liquid zone to the downside below 10.6. If that were to happen, not only would we break that area, and looking at historic volatility percentile, would we very likely initiate another test back down to $10,000 low, but 12-hour momentum would also turn in the same direction. So good that everything's lining up with each other. That's usually where the magic happens. Looking at 12-hour RSIs or anything obvious here? Not really. Pretty neutral both ways. Don't have anything to make out of that. And let's go check out the daily as well. The daily actually does look pretty good here too, but again, over weekend time, I really like to kind of pretend that it didn't even happen. But if this was during a weekday, if we saw that closure that we had last night, I would be, yeah, we're very likely to test back up towards 11,100-ish region. But seeing that as it is, Saturday, Sunday, I feel apprehensive about this. Probably better to go around where CMEs closed on Friday and see what they're looking like. And we don't really get much from this, except, well, I mean, it would be more angled towards the bullish side, but whether you're bullish or bearish, you got something going for you here. If you're bullish, you say higher low. If you're bearish, you say, well, still lower highs, and both are technically right. So realistically, I think that we're not, we're probably have to wait until CMEs open up and get like a day or two traded before we see resolution on this one. But going back on over here into the daily for spot price action and just dealing with what we got on screen, we do see that daily Stokes are going to try to cross the upside here and reject the bearish control zone. So that'd be another great point in the favor of the boo laws, and that will happen as long as what? Guess where it is? Guess where the price point is? 10.6, right? So as long as we're above 10.6, credit, or not credit, but I suppose small, as they say. Is that like the new meme? The small buys to the upside, yes. Looking at daily Jewel, I feel like I'm seeing some lineup over here? Yeah, it is lining up a lot. I saw a lot of people talking about this in the Jewel chat. Would I play something like this? Fuck no. Will more aggressive people play something like this? Yeah, they will. I do not look at anything within this region right here as a signal or like a new signal. I want to see it in like this region here, this region here. Those are the best. Those are typically the best, at least. This area right here, it is suggesting that we are seeing a little bit of counter trend pressure. So fair enough. but I don't feel all that confident with that. I'm curious what CMEs look like instead. Yeah, CMEs are more in a bearish posturing, if anything, for daily jewel, but it's really, I mean, that's really splitting hairs. What is it actually? It's neutral. It's actually neutral right now. So fair enough. Anyways, I believe that we also closed a 2-day and 3-day last night, and that was actually a really, really big one that I wanted to keep an eye on. So let's see what they did exactly. 2-day doesn't give us much. Still being rejected by the 21, still being held up by the 10 simple. Nothing to make out of that, except for the 2-day jewel is definitely in a more selly posturing here. So again, coming into this week, it is under pressure, as we can see, and 2-day Stokes are looking to cross down and reject the bearish, reject getting out of the bearish control zone, implying that bears are in control while this is simultaneously happening. Pig, show me where the reverse Stoke indicator cross happens. Very interesting, 10,724. So that does suggest that we need to see continuation probably within these next 2 days to the upside above that 10-8, 20-ish region on the short-term time frames. That is actually probably the most damning thing that I do see for the Bulas right now. So keep that in mind as well. I guess it's not damning towards the Bulas. It's just suggesting that they're kind of on the clock right here. The next 2 days, as we just got a fresh closure on that. Looking at the 3-day, I suspect we'll see something relatively similar. No, the 3 days actually not giving us too much right now. There's not much to make out of this. 3-day Stokes are actually just freshly crossing on to the upside. And remember, this is testing the same trend line that we had. I guess I don't have it drawn on this chart specifically, but this same trend line that we have coming in from the last few lows going all the way back to December 2018. So this is still the best case for the Bulas, in my opinion, as it would be correlated with this low right here at 3,100. This low right here at about 7,000 before $3,000 rally right here, and then another major low right here in March, the coronavirus dump at about 4,800 before initiating a massive move to the upside, and then once again kind of testing it within this region right here. Now, that also does imply that we could technically come back down and test it officially, although I would argue that that was your test right there. You really don't want to see it curl back down around and then officially test this. That's probably not going to work out. I do believe that we've basically seen the test if it is going to work out, and you'd expect to see no lower lows below 10,000 if this is going to be your next macro low, which is what that would suggest. So I need to be very, very careful and clever with how I talk about the higher term timeframes right here. Do I think that Bitcoin can come back down to 10,000? Yes, absolutely. If Bitcoin came back down to 10,000, does that mean that I am looking for it to break further? Well, no, only if I see a daily closure below like 10.1 or wherever our last few closures was, which was 10.1. And if that happens, yes, I would be looking further south towards about 9,100, anywhere around the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average, the 200 simple and 377 exponential moving average on the daily right here, also in line with the volume profile, showing massive activity within this region as well. That's what I'd be looking towards, but that's only if $10,000 breaks. For the time being, as long as $10,000 holds, that is a potential reversal zone. There's 3 big potential reversal zones for Bitcoin, and this is one of them. And I would not consider it broken until that condition is met below 10.1. If that does happen, 9.1 is where I'm looking towards. That's the next extremely strong likelihood for a bounce and probably reversal, or potential reversal, I should say, not probably. And if that area fails, then we can talk about 7,500 or 7,000, but that's pretty far away right now, so I don't think it's too relevant to our current conversation. So fair enough. Let's go look at the monthly as well, as we do come into the monthly close soonish. And I think that this is really important to reflect on. Jesus, man, beef is coming up all over myself right now. Can't handle it. So yes, on a monthly schedule, as long as Bitcoin's closing above, where is this area right here? Yeah, at about 10.8, long-term good. And I would consider this last test down to the 10 simple as a test nonetheless. And as I showed yesterday, there's something that my mentor used to do a lot on the weekly and monthly specifically to judge long-term trend. And when you are in a very, very strong trend, you do look for pullbacks to the 9 exponential moving average and no less before further upside. And in this case right here, that actually has already happened quite specifically to the T actually on this one. It doesn't always work out that perfectly, but that's what that would suggest. So I'm going to put back on a 21, but I thought that was rather enlightening when I checked it out yesterday as well. That would suggest that if you are going to be bullish here, you have a lot of good reasons on the higher term timeframes. That again does not mean that Bitcoin can't come back down and graze the lows. It's very much possible, but as far as the monthly closure comes into view, any sort of a closure above 10.8, long term, I'm still actually bullish from this price point. And keep in mind, we're not just going to be closing the monthly this week. We're going to be closing the quarterly quarterly as well. And how does the quarterly look right now? Well, let's put it on log scale because it doesn't look all that great right now. But what does the quarterly look like? Okay, so the quarterly is actually a lot more obvious here too. If the quarterly closes above actually 10.8 as well, then guess what? We have a new higher high on the quarterly for the first time since basically 2017, 2018, which is kind of a big deal. And I believe that CMEs would probably do the same thing as well. Actually, no. Damn it, Pena. Damn it, Pena awared me about this. And you know what? He's fucking right, man. I hate him. No, I'm just kidding. I really like Pena. We had a great conversation in the program Discord yesterday. It was fucking funny. This new guy joined Punklandia. He's one funny motherfucker. I'll tell you that straight up. Penny used to be. I thought Penny used to be one of the funniest motherfuckers. Actually, Crypto MF was the funniest motherfucker, but he doesn't come around too often anymore. But then Pena took it for a while, and now this Punklandia guy, I think that he's gonna be I think he's got the role now. I was at this like restaurant yesterday while speaking with him. I was just fucking laughing. People must have thought I was just absolutely crazy. Anyways, Bitcoin backing off here, and this is kind of what I was talking about earlier in the stream. You know, do I think that we're gonna see this is kind of a fucky area here. I want to see CMEs open. Until then, I wouldn't really be expecting a breakage of this current range. But yeah, going back to CMEs right now. Technically, no new highs on CMEs as long as they're below 12,660 on even a monthly closure, and that's actually exactly where we sold off in August here too. So keep that in mind, as CMEs do seem to get the price action, especially for the long term, a lot better. At least for the history that we actually do have, which is not all that much, admittedly, going only back to about December of 2017, which is not really that good. Anyways, okay, cool. So I think we kind of beat the dead horse to death, which is also beating another dead horse to death. So let's just fucking kill all animals, I guess, right now. Yeah, Bitcoin does look like it wants to get rejected here. I'd probably be looking for another move back down to 10.6 before this Sunday is done. Again, does that imply that we're actually going to break below 10.6? No, it doesn't. But it would start to look good for it as we do see momentum oscillators turn down along the same tip. So, if I had to call things right now, yeah, I do think that it comes back down around here. Probably does try another bounce around 10.6. And if 10.6 does fail after that, then I'd be looking for another move back down here towards about 10.1 or 10,000, whatever it ends up being. Also, I believe that we have the bi-weekly closing today too. Is there anything to be aware of there? So let's go over here and let's go over to Stamp as well. And what do we see? We see it above all major moving averages. Kind of hard to be bearish off of that. Backfill down around 10.1 to 10.2 region. Do we have bearish divergence here? We already had bearish divergence actually between this point and this point. I would argue that the easy portion of that move is already played out. I mean, that was indeed a move from about 12.5 to 9.7, 9.8. So yeah, I think that that's already played out. However, looking at bi-weekly Stokes, they are just freshly crossing down right now. Pig, what's going to be needed to keep them down? Any sort of a closure below $11,050, so that does still remain a decent pivot to the upside for the weekly and bi-weekly here. So fair enough, would suggest that we have a little bit of downside pressure here as well. Anyways, let's go check out what the rest of the market's doing. Let's go. I guess there's nothing to update on traditional markets or Forex, that's not trading for the weekend. But what do we see elsewhere? What about Mr. Buterol? How's she doing, or he doing, or whatever the fuck, whatever the fuck it is? Are we still in a bounce territory? Nah, looking short term like it wants to come back down to me, probably back down to like 330-ish region. So yes, pressure onto the downside. 4 hour does look like a little bit of a backfill here too, so maybe I could be wrong on that. If we had to construct ranges for this one in the same way that we did for Bitcoin, what would I do? I don't think it's as obvious here actually. In fact, I think that Bitcoin is just a cleaner chart right now. If I had to do it, I would do this area right here as my upside liquid zone, which is actually I already have it in there. Okay, nice. Oh, well, that worked out quite well, and it's being kicked out of it right now. So it tests the tops out of it, gets rejected from it, comes back down, probably comes back down and tests around like, what is this, 335 to 330-ish region? Yeah, something like that. Or actually even a little bit above there, like 337 to 331, if you want to be super exact. Kind of a thick blue box down around here. Maybe I should actually, no, you know what? Now that I look at it again, it really should even be a little bit lower than that. Damn it, I'm not a perfectionist, but Yeah, it actually would be more like 335 to 330. Okay, great. That makes a lot more sense. Nice and even too. So my OCD is satisfied. Historical volatility percentile is suggesting the same things here on the 4-hour as well. And if it does get a closure above 360ish region, I would look for a quick move up to the 200 simple. Actually, not the 200 exponential average, but the 200 simple in this region at about 375. So that's what I'd be looking for right now. However, momentum oscillators are twisting to the downside, currently speaking, and 4-hour stokes will turn to the downside officially with any sort of a closure below 358. So you will very likely see or already have clarity on that situation by the time that this video is posted in the next hour and 16 minutes and 31 seconds. So if that condition is met, I'd probably be looking for a greater pullback here, back down below 340 or 345 or whatever it was, and fill at the bottom side of the short-term range. But yeah, other than that, I don't really see anything like too obvious here right now. Dailies looking a lot more toppy in some regards, but a little bit too early to be calling this one as well. What about the weekly? Weekly still bouncing off the 21. How much more downside do you have looking at this right now? Immediately, probably not that much. It looks like it wants to play at a greater balance regardless of whether you're bullish or bearish here to begin with. So I do kind of refrain from saying anything more aggressive than that. Weekly RSI is a little bit more short-term bearish if you want to be super exact. Getting kicked out of the bullish control zone, never a good thing. But how much, or is that going to be applicable for today's price action? Probably not. No. We also don't see any divergence here, or at least I suspect we don't. Yeah, we see lower lows on RSI correlated with these lows right here. So technically within the overall governance of that momentum oscillator. And if I did have called this one, it probably does look a little more downside angled here overall with maybe some short-term, medium-term upside. But again, I'd probably be looking for Bitcoin to set the direction or set the tone on this. What about Link? Link backing off from our $100,000 or $100,000 Satoshi target. And what do we see here? Well, what do we see? We see what appears to be a potential lower high actually being put in place right now. I did say yesterday I'd actually be looking for this one to pop back up a little bit more towards 115 to 120,000 Satoshis. I think I'm going to be wrong about that. The reason why I say I'm going to be wrong about that, actually, no, there is no hidden bearish divergence there. Interesting. Let's see what the 12-hour says. 12-hour looks a lot more toppy as well to me. And yes, there's our hidden bearish divergence. So yeah, short-term, medium-term, I'd be looking for this one to come back down to about 85,000 Satoshis. And if we do start closing 12-hour dildos below there, we could actually fix this. This would be kind of cool. Let's increase the decimals. Shit. I need like fucking 10 decimals for this. I guess 5 would be fine. Let's see what that shows. Actually, so that wouldn't be enough. I probably need like 6 or... Might as well do 9. All right, there you go. So you can get the exact price below 904,000 Satoshis. And then we would see this naturally come back down. And then I'd be looking for a further retracement back down to the low of last week, right around about 74,000 Satoshis. And that is in line more or less with the Bitcoin dominance being long-term bullish here. Looking at a daily, that would obviously confirm this is another lower high again. So fair enough. You got that in play too. And what about the weekly here? The weekly's in a bouncy area, so any sort of short-term downside I actually don't think gets follow through here. I think that it would very likely bounce it somewhere around the mid 80,000s. And then we play at a range between kind of where we are right now at like the 90,000 Satoshi region and the like 115,000 Satoshi region for the next week or so, and not really have any major bias within that. So fair enough. Anyways, what other ones do we want to look at? What are the other big ones right now? I don't even know what the big ones are. Like I had to ask the other day in the shitcoin carousel, hey guys, what are the top shitcoins nowadays? I guess BNB is always popular, so this one's always good, right? Let's look at a daily here. Looks a little bit short-term toppy to me as well. Probably does trade back down short term to 25 and a quarter. What do we see on the 4-hour? Same thing here. Yeah, 25 and a quarter to 20 to 25 even. I'd be looking for a pullback there in probably short term bounce there, and then come back to it tomorrow and see what's up. What else do we want to check out? Do we want to check out? I mean, does anyone even give a fuck about Tron, EOS, or XRP anymore? People always love XRP. People love XRP, right? XRP so popular. Well. Where's my soundboard? Yeah, you already know where I'm going with this one. short-term toppy, probably coming back down towards 23 and a quarter. Not good. What about Cardano versus Bitcoin? What do we see here? Short-term is what? Short-term, probably bouncy. I wouldn't be surprised if the thing bounces back up above 1,000 Satoshis, actually. Long-term, extremely terrible. Long-term, like 6 months, 2 years out, I'd be looking for this one to go for the full retrace. But short-term, medium-term, on a weekly schedule, I'd be looking for this one to play out a greater bounce here and then come back after that and probably topple on over again. Looks absolutely great, actually. Anything else? I don't really think so. I don't think I have like the new crop of hot chick ones from maybe Uni, but there's just not really this is your weekly chart right here. Good luck with that. Short term down. If I did have to call this one here, short term down actually probably does come back down all the way towards that 40,000 Satoshi region. That's if I had to call it. That's with a gun to my head, but do I trust that? Not really. Anyways, oh, hey, Bitcoin's already coming back down. Oh, hey, there you go. Nice one, Bitcoin. Nice one, you little piece of shit, you. And what do you know? A bounce off of 10.6. Sometimes that TA bullshit, sometimes it actually works. Anyways, looking a little more downside angled here. I'd still like to see a break of 10.6. On a 2 hour or 4 hour, but for what it's worth right now, it's looking like we probably do get that. We got to test to the top side of the range, we got to test to the bottom side of the range. Classic motherfucking weekend. So fair enough. Let's go check out our secondary charts over here too. What do we see? Just move down to the 20 simple on on the Challenger bands. So far holding up. That is your 10.6 region, by the way. I don't really have anything to add here that hasn't already been said. It's very, 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 very similar chart here. Below 10.6, problems all the way back down to about $10,000 base. Above 10.6, cautiously, somewhat sort of Bula-ish, but I definitely feel like this weekend is very similar to the last weekend. Throws it over some major areas and kind of teeters-totters and probably plays out some downside again. Looking at daily MACD, I don't see anything here that's obvious. I just see that the histogram is starting to loosen up its grip a little bit. Not really anything to be made out of it other than that. No divergences to be spoken of. No nothing there. So I think right now is the time to be saying we probably just going from level to level is the right thing to do, at least for myself. Of course, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is the furthest thing from financial advice, of course. But I'm not really getting much from my secondary chart today that we already haven't seen. Let's go see what Pick has to say about probabilities. So let's see what's going to be the major areas right now. What's pretty much the same thing as yesterday, except now that we've kind of rejected from the top side zone, let's just use that as another management area as well. And we could do 850, and we could keep it 550 to the downside. It's not anything too crazy. I imagine that the probabilities for both these things should be relatively high. And let's see, where are we going to show? Yes. What do you know? What do you fucking know? What do you motherfucking know? What's the most likely thing to happen? Range here. 10.6 to 10.850, or 10.550 to 10.850-ish region. So it's a little bit wider there. This is on a 4 hour, by the way, so 72.5%. We could go look at a daily as well. What do we see here? Daily is a lot different though. Daily says that we actually could very, very well get resolution. In fact, the daily would say it's more likely to get resolution outside of this range than anything else. So quite literally, if you combine the below target and the above target probabilities, that's going to be like 76%, 77% about. So it's actually it actually is a little bit likely that we do break this range, but I wouldn't say before CME's closure. So, if we're looking at a 4 hour down here, obviously that is well within the guise of CME's. If we look at a 12 hour, should be as well, actually. And what do you know? 50.25% is, is your most likely thing to happen right here. When we start to get to a daily, which is around the time that CME's will open later, that's when this really starts to open up and we could see resolution on this. But for now, in the early Sunday morning hours, probably just playing off of one range to the next. So there you go. What else do we want to check out? We could actually look at the probability of something a little bit more interesting. Let's see, what would be the probability? And we can actually forecast this a little bit. It is Sunday after all, so why not? And this video is already too long. Never mind. All right, well, no, we'll just do it really, really quick. Let's look at what would be the probability of creating a new high on this run, actually reverting the trend, and vice versa to the downside. What would be the same thing to get a closure below 10,100 and create a new lower low? Well, today's probability would be very, 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 very unlikely. Now, Pig actually made a really good point to me about this last night, and he's right. The probabilities of these things are actually not exact. The reason why that is because they do have fat tails, and so when you do talk about like outlier situations, this probability down here is obviously not going to be exactly that, because we're talking about an outlier situation. So what it really means to say is that if things were to get back down around there, like it'd probably be a lot worse than that. Anyways, it's a bad way of explaining it, but man, I understand these things enough to use them, but probably not the best to explain it. Or actually, that is a 12-hour. Let's look at it daily. It should be relatively low too. Yeah, 23.5% to the upside versus 10.25% to the downside, which is still more or less on the low side as well. But 10% probability is worth paying attention to. 23.5% is obviously worth it as well. Inside probability, going to grossly overshadow both of those. Anyways, I'm getting out of. I'm hungry as fuck, man. It's time to start to wrap this bitch up right now. So let's go back down here to the 4-hour, and what do you know? What do you know? We have a tail of 2 blue boxes, and we get to test them in the same 4-hour dildo. Above 10.820, I look for an extension all the way up to about 11,000 or even 11,100ish region. Below 10.6 on a 2-hour or 4-hour dildo closure, I look for another return back down to 10.1. If I had to call it right now, I do think that Bitcoin does come back down here. I do think that this price action happening over a weekend is more of a concern rather than a comfort. And looking at 4-hour RSI, we are starting to break below the exponential here. 4-hour Stokes are obviously going to come down as well. And with that said, I think I'll kind of leave it there. If I had to call it right now, I do think that we're going to test this area officially again and probably break to the downside and test once again into the lower $10,000 region. That does not imply that we're actually going to break down below there just yet. It's still potential macro reversal point. So fair enough. Anyways, I'd like to wish you well. I'd like to wish you the best, and the happiest of the happiest. I'm going to go eat a shit ton of food. Until next time, take care.